Caffeinated Thoughts Podcast. Hi, this is Vander Hart. Welcome back to another episode. For this podcast, we spoke with Mark Hancock. He's the CEO of Trail Life USA. Trail Life USA is a Christian adventure program with 30,000 members and 830 troops across 50 states. They are inviting families to participate in a first ever National Backyard Campout on Friday, April 17th, in order to make memories with your family during this COVID-19 pandemic. Before we get to that discussion I had with Mark, I wanted to talk a little bit about something I saw on YouTube, and I pulled the audio for. Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota. She's somebody I've known of for a while. I don't really track South Dakota politics. I probably should, since they're our northwest neighbor, being here in Iowa. But she has said something. She said something on April 1st that I'm not hearing any governor, any statement. I'm not hearing any governor make statements like this. And I wish I'd hear more language like this from governors. Here's a clip. It's about 4 minutes long.
I wanted to touch on the role of government in a crisis situation. In this country and in our state, we have a government that is run by, for, and of the people. And the people have established national and state constitutions that place specific limits on the role of government in our lives. Those limits prevent us from taking draconian measures, much like the Chinese government has done and what we have seen. There also is some limits that keep us from taking some of the actions we've seen European governments take that limit citizens' rights. Our Constitution ensures the citizen's right is protected. I agree with the role of the government as set forth in our state and in our national constitution. I took an oath to uphold these constitutions. My role in respect to public safety is something that I take very seriously. The people themselves are primarily responsible for their safety. They are the ones that are entrusted with expansive freedoms. They're free to exercise their rights to work, to worship, and to play, or to even stay home, or to conduct social distancing. Since the middle of February, I've been very clear that people need to take personal responsibility for their health and the well-being of their families. They should be practicing good hygiene. They should be washing their hands, practicing social distancing to make sure that we are stopping the spread of this virus in our state. Other than a select few, the work that the people of South Dakota have been doing has been tremendous and has been incredibly effective. We have been able to bend the curve a great deal. We have been able to make sure that we're keeping our hospital capacity at a manageable level, and we are continuing to push our peak day farther and farther out into the future. We have to remember that our objective here is not to stop the spread of this virus in the state of South Dakota. The science tells us that that is not possible. We cannot stop it. What we're trying to do is to slow the spread. We're trying to flatten the curve, and we're trying to make sure that our people and that our healthcare system are not overwhelmed. South Dakota is not New York City, and our sense of personal responsibility, our resiliency, and our already sparse population density put us in a great position to manage the spread of this virus without needing to resort to some of the measures that we've seen in some of these major cities, coastal cities, and in other countries. My team has put in some thoughtful, strategic, some guided measures by using science and facts and data to what is happening right here on the ground in South Dakota. The calls to apply for a one-size-fits-all approach to this problem in South Dakota is herd mentality. It's not leadership. My responsibility is to respect the rights of people and the people who elected me, to manage our state operations in a way that reflects the realities of what we have here on the ground in our state. On the foundation of my principles, common sense conservative values, and the principles that we hold dear in America, the facts, the science, and the data will guide our decision making here in South Dakota. So I want to thank everybody for what they've been doing so far. We will get through this. It's incredibly important that we continue to take responsibility for our families, that we stay home. If we're not feeling well, we call our doctor. We practice social distancing, and we do what we can to make sure we're making good decisions for our communities and our families that live right here in South Dakota. And don't get focused on national news. Focus on what you see in your communities and what will really work to help slow down the spread of this virus and make sure we're making the best decisions for the people that live here.
It's remarkable. I mean, I believe she's really trying to balance between individual rights, protecting individual rights, and dealing with the public health crisis that COVID-19 situates. And I love when she says, my responsibility is to respect the rights of people who elected me and to manage our state operations in a way that reflects the realities of what we have on the ground here, on the foundation of my principles, common sense conservative values, and the principles we hold dear in America. The facts, the science, and the data will guide our decision making here in South Dakota. And then she also said that the calls to apply a one-size-fits-all approach to this problem in South Dakota is herd mentality, not leadership. And she is absolutely spot on there. I wish more governors would realize that. Here in Iowa, we don't need to apply the same mitigation protocols that New York City enacted. South Dakota certainly doesn't. I think there's something to be said about states that have sparse population density. We're seeing this here in Iowa too. We have outbreaks in Linn County, in Johnson County. Those are the two counties that have, I think, the worst or the most number of cases. Not necessarily the worst, but there's also been cases, about 140, I believe, in Polk County. But in these rural counties, you're hardly seeing any. I mean, some counties only have one case. Some counties have none. So to think that you even need to have a one-size-fits-all approach across the entire state is it's nonsense. And while I take COVID-19 seriously, I would really, here's my frustration with COVID-19 is that it seems like you can almost put everybody into one of two camps. One, I'm seeing a bunch of people say COVID-19 is a hoax, that it's not a big deal, that it might be even less serious than influenza, that this is completely ridiculous. We should just go on as normal and let us build up herd immunity. And I think that is not necessarily the right approach to take, because I think it's mainly coming from a point of view that's mainly concerned about the economy and not public health. But on the other hand, you got people who are so fearful and so afraid and so concerned about the public health implications of this that any other concern, forget it. Let's just lock it all down. And we're still having people here in Iowa calling on Governor Reynolds to lock it all down and for us to have a shelter-in-place order when we don't need that. I mean, looking at the stats, and this week, it's the stats, we're seeing every day have, 95 cases or more. Just today, there was 125 new cases. We have 29 deaths. We have over 1,200 cases in the state. But I'm looking in eastern Iowa where we have the biggest outbreaks, and there's still plenty of beds available. There are still plenty of ventilators available. There's still plenty of ICU beds available. So, and the point is, what we're trying to do is not to stop it, as Governor Noem pointed out. It's because we can't. That's impossible. We're not going to completely stop it. It's already out. When you get to a pandemic level, containment is not necessarily an option. You gotta hope. Your best hope is to not overwhelm your healthcare system. And obviously, who knows what will happen next week? But right now, it's looking like this week, we're in pretty good shape, I think. Now, Governor Reynolds mentioned that we're constantly running out of PPE. I mean, that's going to be a continual problem. So if you have the ability to make face masks, do that for healthcare workers and for long-term care facility workers. I'm very proud of the businesses in Iowa that are shifting and making PPE for our healthcare providers. So if you could do that, if you have the ability to sew, that's not me. That's not how I can help. But if some of you can, sew face masks, great, because those work behind face shields. So anyway, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but one of my biggest problems, and I dinged Governor Reynolds over this a couple weeks ago. There seemed to be a tendency that, okay, we're getting to the point where we got community spread, suddenly, bam, closing everything down, bam, no worship services. Now, I think that we need to take it seriously. I think we need to do social distancing. I think we need to be mindful of those who are around us. I think we need to definitely, and goes without saying, even without a pandemic, if you're sick, stay home. Don't go around people. Why spread it around? Wash your hands, things like that. We need to take these things seriously. And my problem when she issued those orders is that Iowans were starting to take that seriously. Lots of churches were canceling services and going online. I'm not sure some of these orders were needed, and I know they're seeing that in South Dakota as well. Now, she's issued since April 1st some orders. Like, I think the most restrictive, she actually did a shelter-in-place order for people who are at risk. And only in 2 counties. I'm not sure. Lincoln County is one. I'm not sure what that encompasses. Then the county that Sioux Falls is in, which is their largest city, she ordered those who are at risk, those who are 61 or older, have underlying health conditions, to stay at home. That makes a lot more sense than telling everybody stay home. So, I think I wish, and I think this is something that we're going to have to, and I don't know, I don't have all the answers here. I'm just a guy who doesn't have an MD. I'm just looking at this, but when we're looking at public policy, you can't just have the public health people weigh in. You need to be concerned about the economy. You also need to be concerned about inalienable rights, because government doesn't grant those. Government's supposed to protect those. Now, I understand that governors have wide emergency powers, but I think they need to be using that responsibly. And I think Governor Kristi Noem has, and I think Governor Reynolds is getting better. I think she's starting to be sensitive to that, and that's why we haven't had a shelter-in-place order. But I don't see that widespread with governors across the United States, and I think that's sad. So without further ado, shifting gears again, here's my conversation with Mark Hancock of Trail Life USA. Mark, welcome to the Caffeinated Thoughts Podcast.
Thanks, Shane. It's great to be here.
So tell us a little. You've been on our podcast once before, but it's been a while. So refresh our listeners' memories. What is Trail Life USA?
Well, I love that question because it's something that's really close and near and dear to my heart. Trail Life USA is a character leadership and adventure organization for boys from kindergarten through 12th grade. We are specifically Christ-centered and also boy-focused. We believe that boys and girls are different and they need programs that are aimed at them. The program is what you would expect from an outdoor program. We have troops that are organized in over 850 churches in all 50 states, about 30,000 members, going out and doing things like camping and hiking. And of course, we have uniforms and handbooks and a robust awards program and troops and patrols and great opportunities for boys to grow in character and leadership utilizing the outdoors.
Okay, so how long have you guys been around?
We've been around about 6 years. We started right after it was apparent that the Boy Scouts were heading in a direction that wasn't going to be acceptable to a lot of churches. And of course, since then, that they've even gone farther astray in our minds. And so we've grown really quickly because we know that there are families that value the legacy of the Boy Scouts and the great emphasis on character and leadership and on specifically boy-related programs. And they're finding Trail Life USA and loving it.
Yeah, and right now we find ourselves in a very odd period of time, unprecedented. I've never experienced anything like this. What state are you talking to me from?
I'm in South Carolina. Our headquarters
Oh,
is just south of Greenville, South Carolina.
okay, so I think like Iowa, you guys don't have a shelter in place order statewide, right? Or do you?
It seems to get a little bit more restricted. Yesterday, it's not shelter in place, but yesterday they did. They are starting to clamp down and call more and more things non-essential. But
Okay.
I think as of today, we're still allowed to get out and go about.
Okay. Well, here it's like not technically a shelter in place order, but functionally pretty similar. But anyway, kids are out of school. Kids are getting wound up. Kids are parents are like at a loss of finding things to do. And in the midst of this, you have this idea. Now, I don't know if this is something you guys were planning before COVID-19, or was it something that kind of started, the idea came spontaneously?
Yeah, I don't know. It came spontaneously. It grew out of a seed. You know, our troops are really resourceful people, as you would expect from people who enjoy the outdoors and coming up with solutions and aren't quitters. But when they're unable to meet as troops, so troops started meeting online through different online platforms that, of course, we're all becoming familiar with now. And so they would hold these troop meetings online, and I would get invited to a bunch of them, which was really cool because even though this is a difficult time, it's neat to be able to visit with troops, something I wouldn't have been able to do before. And then somebody hatched the idea, listen, if we can get together, if our troop can meet this way, why can't our troop camp this way? And troops started camping outside virtually in their backyards and joining together. And then the idea arose from the field when our volunteers said, hey, why don't all troops gather? And then it went a step further. We said, why don't we invite everybody? And so on April 17th, we're holding the National Backyard Campout. We've invited all of America to join us in our own backyards. We have a website dedicated to it, traillifeusa.com/backyard campout, and
Okay.
also backyardcampout.fun is another place that your listeners can go to. And all kinds of information. There's a map there that we just launched, and people can register saying they're going to be camping in the background that night. And the map by the minute is just being flooded with pins all across the country as families are saying, you know what, we're going to find some purpose in this difficulty, and we're going to create memories out of this difficult time. And so families are choosing to camp outdoors. Again, they don't have to be associated with trail life.
Right.
Our trail men are going to do it. We have 30,000 of them coast to coast. But we're invited everyone to join us out there. And on that website, you'll find tips for how to set up your campsite, the equipment that you need. We have prizes and giveaways. The night of, we'll have a broadcast that will go all across the country, visiting different backyards, and people who are sharing what it is that they're doing. Families will have the opportunity to post pictures and videos to the website of their own campsite. So this is something that's really grown, and it's grown way beyond trail life. And I think it's because people have a hunger to look forward to something, you know, and to create memories that are different than maybe they would be.
Right. So yeah, instead of letting your kids, binge watch Netflix or Disney Plus or some other, on a Friday night, go out and go spend some time in the great outdoors right outside your back door. So, I think that's that's an interesting kid. My son and I, we've camped in our backyard before. He's now he's grown, but it's pretty easy to do. It doesn't take a ton of equipment. And I think if people are wondering where in COVID-19 can I get camping equipment still, I know in Iowa, obviously Walmart sells it and they're still open. There's still a number of stores where families can go and get a tent if they don't have a tent or things like that. But it's so yeah. I mean, what's your experience? I'm assuming you've done this with your family. What's your experience been like?
Yeah, well, I've got two sons, and it's great to have them home right now. They're 20 and 18, and because my oldest is in college, and they've transferred to online for their classes, so it's nice having him home. And then my younger son travels as part of an internship around the country, and so he's homebound now too. So it's great having them home. And we'll be camping out that night in our backyard. Looking forward to it. We've done a lot of camping together. But Shane, it's just really a real opportunity. Our memories as adults are likely to be of layoffs and shortages and fear of the
Right.
unknown. What if we can make for our kids a time that they remember, hey, I remember that time. That's when we camped in the backyard. That's when we made s'mores over the fire, over open fire in the backyard. What if that becomes the memories that our kids have? That's just great parenting there. And
Yeah.
it's a great opportunity for families to bond in a different way. And we're
Right.
hearing stories like that. And on that website, there's all kinds of advice on what parents can do at home at this time when they have the kids at home, from doing a backyard archaeology dig to building furniture forts. If you don't have the equipment, you can camp inside. Just build a furniture fort in the living room with blankets.
Right.
But we also have a supplier on that website who is discounting their equipment, can ship it right to your house. So
cool.
There's all kinds of opportunities for families to get involved. We want to encourage them to find new ways to connect and find purpose in this difficulty. And that's just the way of a trailman. That's the way of trail life, is we find purpose in difficulty. And we want to see the rest of the country join us.
Right. Well, I think one of the silver linings with this whole thing with COVID-19 is families, spending more time together, because whether you're in a state where you're literally told you have to stay home, but a lot of people, have jobs where they're forced to work from home. This is so. Families should be intentional and say, "Hey, let's make the best out of this." And I really like this idea of making memories. And what's your favorite memory camping with your kids?
Well, we would spend a week away each summer at a summer camp, and I just had a great time with my sons. And because the difference in age is about 26 months between them, and so I would have 2 years of the older one before the younger one would join us in a particular thing, and then I would have 2 years of the younger one after the older one had moved along. So those one-on-one times camping were really powerful times, and times in building our relationship and making us close. And you're absolutely right. When you can create those sorts of things, or even in a time like this, you got to be creative. You have to figure something else, or else you're just sitting around watching the news all day. So
Right.
those kind of things where we're being thoughtful about the time that we're spending together. I heard a family say the other day that that normally they had soccer practice and dance class and all kinds of other things to go to, and they sat around the table for 45 minutes after they finished eating, just laughing and sharing and telling stories, and they could not remember the last time they had done that. Well, that's tragic. I mean, some of the most powerful, you ask my memories, some of the most powerful, wonderful times is around that dinner table. What if families discover again the dinner table, or a simple backyard campout experience, and come out of this thing with a stronger relationship, bonding in ways that they never bonded before? I'm just excited about the potential for this event.
Yeah, me too. That sounds great. I mean, my dad and we didn't camp a lot, but I remember I was in Boy Scouts, and I remember him taking my brother and I and a friend down to Camp Wapello in southern Iowa. And gosh, I think I was like 8, 9 years old, and I remember that we made the mistake of having food inside our tent. Now, obviously, Iowa, we don't have to worry about big predators, but we had a raccoon come into our tent. So,
Wow.
that was interesting. And my dad came in and quickly threw the food down the hill away from the tent. So. It's like, whoops. Okay. But yeah, I mean, to this day, I still remember that. So thank you for
That's a great memory.
Yeah. Thank you for, putting this together, and I'm excited about its potential. Just some closing thoughts, just anything else you'd like to share with our listeners about this event, or about Trail Life USA?
Yeah, well, I would love to see people just spending some time to get quiet and think about ways that you can find purpose in this difficulty. It's so important that we lift our eyes, that we get quiet and say, okay, what's really going on here? How can I come out of this, rather than through stress and all these other difficult things? What if there's something that's really amazing that comes out of this? And that's just the heart of a trailman. And that's the heart of Trail Life USA, is to find purpose in difficulty. That's why we take boys out camping. That's why if the weather's bad, we go anyway. Because there's a lot of times that you may say, the weather's bad, I'm going to stay home. But you know what? If you look hard enough, you'll find purpose in that difficulty. You'll grow through that thing. And sometimes the best memories are those times when you're out there in a storm. And right now we're in a storm across the whole country, and it's time for us to say, okay, where's the purpose in this? Where's the growth? How are we going to come out of this better than we went into it? And I think there's a ton of opportunity. And just one of those opportunities is the National Backyard Campout, backyardcampout.fun, and also traillifeusa.com/backyard campout. Right now, Shane, we've got on the website at traillifeusa.com 2 free downloads of books. One is Let Boys Be Boys, and the other is 5 Critical Needs of Boys. And so if you've got boys at home, or if you're leaders of boys as a teacher or a Sunday school teacher or a youth group or anywhere you're working with boys, love for you to download that free those free resources. They're quick reads, just real good practical pointers on how to work with boys, because boys and girls are different, and we need to remember that.
Yes, thank you so much. All right, hey everybody, look forward to that, and I hope to see our listeners will participate in this National Backyard Campout on Friday, April 7th. And that concludes today's episode of the Caffeinated Thoughts Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. If you happen to be listening to this podcast somewhere other than our website, please make sure to listen to check out caffeinatedthoughts.com. That's caffeinatedthoughts.com, or you can search Caffeinated Thoughts and it'll show up at the top of your search screen. Also, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, sign up for emails. That way you don't miss a single update. Also, you can follow us on and subscribe to us using your favorite podcast app, whether that's Apple Podcasts or Google Play or Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, Podbean. If you use a podcast app that our podcast is not currently on, please drop me a line at shane@caffeinatedthoughts.com, and I would love to see if I can make that happen. So again, that's shane@caffeinatedthoughts.com. As always, especially if you're on Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, forget that I said anything. So take care, everybody. Have a great weekend. It's Thursday, but weekend's going to be around the corner. Have a blessed Easter as we celebrate the resurrection of our Lord Jesus Christ, but we do that every Sunday as well. I know it stinks to not be able to be together to be able to do that, but God can work through technology, and we'll be together soon again. So take care, everybody. Stay safe. Practice social distancing and wash your hands. Take care. Bye.